Hey everyone, it's Joric. Welcome back. I hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. Today, I want to apologize up front. Have a cold, so kind of have a very nasally voice today from a lot of travel and a lot of flights and cancellations over the last few days. But this is for those of you that are going to be traveling through London Heathrow, not necessarily to end in London, but if you're connecting through other flights, so your final destination is someplace else throughout Europe. If you've already booked your flight and you have to go through Heathrow, I want to talk about what the security process is like and the nightmare that you may face in trying to get to your connecting flight. I also want to say, for those of you, if you watch this video and you haven't made your trip to Europe, your flight itinerary, you haven't booked it yet, and if you can avoid Heathrow, I would try to avoid it like the plague. So let's go into a few things here so that you can understand what I'm talking about. First, if London is your final destination, then Heathrow makes a lot of sense to get to because, again, that will be your last stop. And then there's train that will take you right from Heathrow into the city. So if that's where you're going, that is perfect, and Heathrow makes all the sense in the world. But if you are connecting to another city, so let's say your final destination is, let's say, Munich, Germany, or Rome, Italy, Athens, Greece, Lisbon, Portugal, and you are connecting through Heathrow to get there, there may be some options that you can use other airports around the UK. You may not be able to fly into, but for example, Luton, Stansted, is it Stansted? Yes. And then Gatwick are other airports in and around, I'll say around, on the outskirts of London, that people go to or fly into to be able to fly to other destinations. But often when you're coming from the United States and Canada, you have to go through London, Heathrow, and when you do that, you get off the plane, you deboard, you'll go through to connecting flights. And as you make your way through that, you scan your boarding pass for the connecting flight. And then as you go through and weave through this area, you'll get to security. And you do have to go through security. You don't have to recheck your bag, so that's good. You don't have to claim your bag and then take that through. But you do have to, whatever carry-ons you have to get through one of a couple security lines that you can get into. And when you do that, the process is, I'll say, highly inefficient, very flawed. And I don't know if there's a better way of doing it. In the summertime especially, which is when I'm making this video, oftentimes security will be on strike, so they'll have a skeleton crew. So I want to walk you through the process so that you can understand that you're most likely going to have, best case scenario, run to your connection, or you might miss your connection, or you have to cross your fingers that your connection is delayed. So you queue up, in this case, one of two lines, and as you snake through and wait, I was looking going, there are only 20 people ahead of me before you get into one of the areas where you get your bin, put your carry-ons in, and you go through. I'm going, this is going to take 5 minutes. It took 45 minutes. And just so you know, you have to pull out your laptop, anything that has metal, and of course any liquids. As they say in line, anything that's spreadable have to be pulled out. And it has to be in a separate bin. So let's say you just have a backpack or a large purse, and you pull out your laptop and your phone and you put it in the same bin. You have to have a separate bin for your metal or metal/medicine spreadable items than your backpack or your purse. So that's one thing. And so as they were telling people that's easy. The bins were coming, so you're able to put that in. But the difficulty is you go through that. They were saying if you happen to have something in your backpack or purse that you forgot to pull out, it was going to take a half hour or 45 minutes for them to check it on the other side of the security monitor. And that's because they had a skeleton crew and they didn't have enough people on the front end telling you what you needed to unpack and checking. They didn't have enough people scanning the items, so monitoring what's going through the x-ray machine. They also didn't have enough people checking you. So as you walk through security, if there's a beep, then they pat you down, or you have to go through the security monitor where you kind of put up your arms and they do the monitoring there. So the difficulty is, depending on what your connection time is, you may or may not make that. So if you have, in my case, I had an hour and a half connection. I figured this is great. It's going to take 10 minutes to get through security tops. I'll have time to go to the bathroom, maybe grab a bite to eat or grab some water and some chips before I got on the plane to come to Lisbon, Portugal. Not so much. It took almost an hour for the 20 of us to get to the head of the queue to go through security. Once I put my backpack and laptop in the bins, the time it took for them to go from the roller, me through the security monitor, them through security to pick them up was over 10 minutes. And I was actually the first in line to do that. So just to give you a heads up there, I was able to grab those. But by the time I was done, the plane that I was going to, the gate was already boarding and they were getting ready to close the gate. So again, I had 90 minutes. I thought that was more than enough time to be able to go through things and have time to relax, use the toilet, get some food, get on the plane. I was the second to the last person on the plane before they closed the gate. Thankfully, the plane didn't leave without me. I was very fortunate. So the moral of the story is, if you are going through Heathrow, doesn't matter what time of year, if you have a tight window, if you have a 2 hour or less connection, you might want to think about getting a connection that is more than 2 hours out, because you have no idea until you go up the escalator and see what security looks like. In that case, when we went through the connecting area where you do the boarding pass and then you snake through a line to go up an escalator to security, you have no idea what it looks like. So you have no idea what you're getting into. And when you get up there and you say, oh, there's 20 people in front of us, this is going to be a cakewalk, there's no issues, you realize that you might as well pack a lunch. And also another thing, when you get off the plane, if you have the ability, if you have to use the bathroom before security, I would highly recommend that. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a tap dance and trying to really hold it, because you may think that the line's no big deal, and like I did, and it was 45 minutes. So when I got on the plane, the first thing, I dropped my bag off to my seat, went right to the bathroom, because I had to go to the bathroom for about 90 minutes before that time. So Heathrow security, and there are many videos about that. It sucks. It just is terrible any time of year. Summertime with a high tourist season, London is one of the main gateways, Heathrow specifically, to get into Europe, whether it be into London or get through your connecting flight. If you have connections through Heathrow, please try to, as much as you may not want to wait for 2 hours through that connection, the chances of you getting through Heathrow in a snap and within 5-10 minutes of security, I've flown through Heathrow maybe 30 or more times. It has not been anything less than a half hour. And in some cases, I've waited almost 3 hours to get through security. It's terrible. It's wildly inefficient. There's a lot of strikes. So I don't know if there was a strike going on at the time, but they have often the minimal amount of people helping you for the maximum amount of people flying through. So it just becomes frustrating and cumbersome. So if you happen to have a connection through Heathrow, try to make it 2 hours or more. And hey, if you get through it in 10 minutes, if you happen to be on one of those days where everything's going great, great. Well, you can relax, grab a bite to eat, and just wait at your gate. That is the best case scenario, and that's well worth it than being stressed out and having to run to your gate or miss your connection. There were several people in line with me that we were all waiting to get to connections, and there were several people that had already missed their flight. They were looking at the big board as we were waiting going, yeah, missed the flight. And there was no way, security didn't help you. So if you had a flight, they weren't saying, well, come to the front of the line. It was just sort of you wait in your queue and you just have to deal with it. So it can be maximum frustration when you're going through security at London Heathrow. Build out enough time or find a way to take a later connecting flight if you can, if that's feasible. Just know it's going to be a lot of stress and frustration. That's the way it is. I don't know. I don't think you're going to find many videos on YouTube or video blogs that you're going to read about how great the security is, but I want you to be aware of it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Apologize for the nasally voice and enjoy your travels.